One.
Hi, I have been asked to give a talk about communicating with people 1,000 years in the future. And I thought the best way to go about this was to begin by imagining communicating with people in the far distant past. And I'm talking millions of years ago, our Haviline ancestors. And I could imagine what it would be like if we could go back there and choose one and ask her, what was your life like? And I think she would say something like, when I was young, I was very happy. My mother carried me in her arms everywhere. And then I grew up and I had a child of my own. And we were very happy. I carried him in my arms everywhere. And then one day, a saber-toothed tiger came. Everybody ran. It grabbed my son and carried him off. And I never saw him again. I was heartbroken for the longest time. But then I had another child, a girl. I carry her everywhere, always happy. But I'm always looking for that saber-toothed tiger. And if it comes back, I'm going to put her down and throw myself in its mouth. I will die, but she will live. And if we could have this interview, I think we would be greatly moved by it. I think our response would be, how brave you were. What a hero you were. And she was. We are descended from thousands of generations of heroes. So we want to look into the future. The only way we can communicate with the future is through our art. And the essence of our art is understanding the emotional connection. There are many things we'd like to know about our Haviline ancestors, but the one thing we want most is what we just heard. What did it feel like to be one? Now, my friend Tom Purdom wrote a story called Fossil Games. It's set in a future where, at a very young age, you can have your intelligence boosted, very much like getting a computer, but you're stuck with what you have. So the result is that not all intelligence enhancement is the same. If you get a Tandy intelligence enhancement, and Tandy goes out of business, then you're going to be at a distinct disadvantage from everybody else because it won't be supported by the upgrades. And if you buy into a Apple 9.0 just before Apple 10.0 comes out, you're always going to be the dumbest kid in your class. So who does this hurt? It hurts those who have the bad intelligent boosting system. And the protagonist is a man with an intelligence of 400 IQ, 500 IQ, by his standards, a moron. And their lives are unhappy simply because everybody values intelligence so highly and everybody else is so intelligent. So he and a lot of other IQ 500, 600, 700 people pool their money and they build a spaceship and they go out to find a planet that they can terraform and colonize and make safe for stupid people like themselves. As they're traveling, we get to know them. One of Tom's basic beliefs, I agree with this, is that if you're extremely intelligent, you're also going to value a humane moral system. You're going to value kindness. You will not be violent. You will not be greedy. You will not be envious. So these are all very good people. You get to know them, and they're very smart. Everyone speaks 30, 40, 50 languages. So in the course of a single conversation, you might get a little bit flirtatious. You would switch over to a music-based language. Or you might have to deal with some technical details, and you would switch over to a machine-based language, one that had been written by an AI for machines to communicate with one another. He does this wonderful job of showing these people who are very likable, very humane, very, very smart. My brain creaked with the effort of following how smart they were. And when they arrive at their planet, they discover fossils. Now, in this future, Earth is the only known planet that ever had life. So they know that this will make this planet of great interest to the smart people back home on Earth. And they break into two factions. One faction believes this is human knowledge and therefore it must be shared. The other believes that it's most important to keep the smart people from coming and ruining their small paradise. So so a war breaks out between the two factions, and it takes the form of robots being sent down to the surface by the radical faction and that destroy fossils. So there'll be nothing there for the people on Earth to find, while the other faction is trying to prevent the destruction. These people are incapable of hitting each other. And the result of it is that when they resort to vandalism, it's shocking. Because we understand them, we feel their emotions and we understand their emotions, and this tells us everything we need to know about their culture. Now, Greg Egan wrote some stories and at least one novel in which humanity is exploring the universe through polises or cities. And these cities have several 100,000 people in it. They are much better people than we are. And you get to know them, you see their politics, their interactions between each other, their kindness. When they find a planet that has life on it, it looks like the life is just no more complicated than pond scum. But they're very reluctant to send down probes because they don't want to interfere with the right of this pond scum to exist. And halfway through the first story of the series that I was reading, it came as a shock to realize that these people were all electronic versions of the originals back on Earth, and that the spaceship that these hundreds of thousands of them are in is this big. In one of the stories, The Planck Dive, a small group of scientists get into a much smaller probe and let themselves be shot down into a black hole so that they can learn about the workings of the black hole. Now, this is pure science because A, they're not going to survive this dive, and B, there's no way of getting the information out of a black hole. There's nothing that they can squirt back that won't be pulled back by the immense gravity of the black hole. So this is the purest possible science. And these people have eliminated from themselves all fear of death because that's not very useful in this probe. And at one point in the story, one of them says, say, suppose we do this and that, then we would be able to come out and bring our information with us. Everybody gets excited about this, and they quickly whip out their calculators, and they run the number and say, nope, sorry, that wouldn't work. And she smiles, and she says, well, just curious. We don't understand people with no fear of death, but we do understand people's love of science, of knowing and of learning. And thus, these people are comprehensible to us. Now, no matter how far into the future we go, no matter how much people improve themselves, because I believe at this point evolution is about done with us, and we're about to take over the reins. We will be shaping our own futures, changing ourselves in ways that we hope are improvements. But no matter how powerful, how intelligent, how wise our ancestors become, there's never one of them is going to stand on top of a hill and look at the universe and contemplate the billions and billions of galaxies and say, I don't feel at all small. I feel very large and powerful and important. And there's not a one of them who isn't going to reflect on the fact that someday he or she will not be alive anymore. Because no matter how long-lived you are, there's no such thing as an immortal. We're all part of the universe, and someday the universe will die. And we all have to accept that. But if our culture survives, if our writings survive through the thousands and millions of years, our descendants will be able to read them. And when they read them, I think the things that they'll value most will be our fiction. The fictions that have told the truth about how we felt, about what it meant to be human, about what our hopes were for the future, about what we believed we were and are and can be. And I believe they'll be very moved by that. I believe they'll look back and they'll say, how brave you all were. What heroes. Thank you.